Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I'm your host this week, Dave Robinson, and I'm with two of my friends stateside this week. Parker Hamlet, how you doing, man?
Hey man, you already know I'm a Collision guy. I don't watch SmackDown, so I gotta be here on the weekends.
Big collider, yeah.
Talk good old AEW Collision. Met a new face here. Excited to chop it up. Have this little triple threat here. Let's talk AEW Collision, guys. What a weekend of wrestling. I don't want to gush too much too early, but what a weekend.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is our trios team. This is our AEW Dream Team. Gary Joe, good to have you back. So Gary Joe, for those who don't know, many of you do, because you all follow his page Honor the Elite on Facebook, but Gary runs a really successful Facebook page and he helps us a lot, particularly with prediction shows. But we wanted to get him back on this week to talk some Collision and this week in AEW. Gary, how are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm fantastic. I'm with you both. Like this was the perfect weekend to talk about AEW because all I'm gonna say is what a time to. We could say what a time to be a wrestling fan, but what a time to be an AEW fan because, man, this show last night showed so much excitement for me, not only for AEW, but what they're going to do forward. But, we're definitely going to grasp on it, but, man, I'm just so excited. And, again, David, thanks so much for having me on here, man.
No problem at all. Well, that tag team match, obviously one of the best matches of the year so far. One of the best 2 out of 3 falls matches I've ever seen, I think. But we'll talk at length about that. And we'll just touch on something in regards news this week. So I want it to be real positive. I think it is a positive, but I think it's been reported a little bit negatively. And that's in terms of an internal email coming out in the dirt sheets. Alluding to banned moves and sequences and spots in matches that all has to be pre-authorized, and that coined some certain areas on the internet, on Twitter. It's been deemed as a real negative, and people are laughing. I think it's a fantastic call from a production point of view. I think what it allows is the production, the refs, the performers, the commentary, everything to marry up a little bit better so we're not getting repeated spots and things aren't oversaturated. That was my takeaway from it. It wasn't a case of we're banning this and this and we're just not going to do these moves anymore. Parker, I'll come to you first. What did you make of that this week?
Well, a lot like you, I see it as a positive thing. And, I'll play devil's advocate and look at both sides of the coin here for a second. I could see where, the casual wrestling fan would look at this and be like, or even the diehard AEW fan would look at this and think, I don't want them to gravitate towards the direction of a style like WWE where, it's safe. Because let's be honest, all three of us in this recording booth right now are hardcore wrestling fans, tried and true. And because of that, we do kind of, gravitate towards some of those more hardcore spots, a lot of stuff that is listed on the AEW ban list now, though. But you do have to remember that the performers are people ultimately. And a lot of the things that are being banned are things that in the past, definitely put their workers in a really unsafe work environment. And ultimately, you have to remember these guys are at work. We don't need a little kid getting splashed in the face with vodka. We don't need anybody taking unprotected chair shots to the head. Sure, the visual is insane. Sure, it adds to the brutality of the match. I don't need to see Bryan Danielson having fake seizures in the ring. I mean, it doesn't derive, from my overall enjoyment of the product. And like you said, there has to be some kind of fluidity. We were talking pre-show about how there was a couple spots or instances in this Collision card where, some things just kind of weren't flowing. And you don't know whether that's maybe a communication thing. But if everybody's on the same page, in production backstage, you can probably avoid a lot of these things. So I kind of see it as a good thing. And obviously, Tony Khan did it, right before the bell rung because we have Blood and Guts upcoming this weekend. You have an absolute stone cold killer in Kota Ibushi coming into this match who I think will do literally anything. I really don't think U.S. audiences know just how fucking crazy this guy is. I mean, he is going to absolutely tear the house down. You have Konosuke, who just is sandbag. I mean, that is going to be, and Pac. I mean, I know we're not talking about blood and guts today, but I mean, we really do have a very physical, probably the most physical blood and guts match to date upcoming. So I definitely understand why Tony Khan kind of battened down the hatches and kind of laid the law down before this match took place. But I'm a lot like you. I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, and the other thing I took away from it is it's like a blank slate. So new wrestlers coming into the company, they know exactly what they can and can't do and what needs to be discussed. So everybody's on the same page. And I'm sure as time goes on, certain wrestlers and certain moves will be kind of pre-authorized, if you like, and they don't have to have that conversation every single match. But I think, I can't understand so much hate. But Gary, what did you make of it, buddy? Are you the same as us, or do you feel a little bit differently?
Well, as you know, Dave, I like to, bring the power of positivity into the room. Thankfully, Parker's very positive. So are you, man.
We all are. Yeah.
But, I look at it this way from a business standpoint, like some wrestling fans need to understand, even me as a big devoted diehard AEW fan, do you want them to jeopardize their next deal with Warner Brothers Discovery? It's rumored that they're going to get the biggest contract in professional wrestling when it comes to their next TV deal. Sometimes you need to please your partners. That's what TK's doing here. Another thing that I have realized, the thing that makes me approve this as well, I don't want them to do above and beyond things, like at the end of matches. Best example that I brought up on Honor the Elite Facebook page. You had a scary incident with Matt Hardy getting severely concussed from the hands of Sammy Guevara on accident from All Out 2021, I believe it was. Oh no, I'm sorry. Actually, I think that was Double or Nothing 2021. But anyway, there was that. You had Dante Martin do this crazy ass ladder spot.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but fucked up his ankle completely. I'd rather them do some safety protocols like that because you need to protect your talent to a degree, and that's what Tony is doing as well. I want to see these future stars of tomorrow be healthy, ready to go, look good, feel good. I like the high risk stuff, don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
again, I'm not going to sit here and deny that AEW has a little bit of an issue when they go above and beyond and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, a lot of people has messaged me as well on Honor the Elite saying, I can't believe this, like you said, man, people are saying that they're going to make it feel like it's WWE-esque when there's no way. And the reason why I say that, because there's still going to be TV-14, no matter what. That's what their biggest audience caters to, is adults and so on and so forth. Even the kids, go figure. Number two, I noticed last night, okay, the protocols that came out was no spitting, no going in the crowd. We saw that last night, okay,
yeah, exactly.
On Collision. And that's where wrestling fans need to, including me, need to stop complaining on the internet. Let AEW do its damn thing. We don't work for them. We're just a casual viewer. That's what we need to do as fans. Support the decision and be happy with this. Move on. People will tend to forget, hopefully. But that's what I look at it as a big devoted AEW fan. This is perfect because, again, I don't want them to jeopardize any TV deal. Yeah. Because this company, to me, I say this all the time to people that don't support AEW. This company is really fucking helping out wrestling so much. You want them to get that next TV deal. You want them to succeed,
Yeah.
So
that's better for everyone. It's better for the WWE. The better AEW does, the more WWE still got to keep up in their game.
It's funny because I said if it wasn't for WWE's lack, and I'm not trying to pop any shots, but if it wasn't for WWE's lack, a company like AEW would never really exist. I mean, really, honestly and truly. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation, because I'm glad that that's the case, because you have a lot of guys that, are finally getting a chance to showcase who they are outside of WWE. And, you know, I mean, as far as like the worker thing or just, you know, and band moveless and stuff, I don't think everybody needs to be out there doing tiger drivers like Osprey and Omega either. And to be honest with you, I think on a week-to-week basis, if we want to really get a good, you know, read on the pulse of how serious this stuff is in regards to like how strict Tony's going to be with it, we can observe what the Blackpool Combat Club is doing. Because I don't see a world where Mox isn't going out there and bleeding. I don't see a world where Daniel Bryan doesn't tote himself with the pride of be real and, you know, we're the toughest bastards in AEW. Yeah. I just if it were as strict as everybody on the internet is acting like it is, I don't really think we would have even seen those things last night. And I think it's more of I don't know if you guys, but I think it's more of a not recommended kind of thing. And I think there's going to be a lot heavier punishment on the other side of it. But, you know, I don't know, like I don't want it to affect just the brutality of, you know, stables like the Blackpool Combat Club. I will say that is one thing I am worried about. But like you said, last night we already saw some cracks in the foundation of some of these alleged things that were quote unquote banned.
Yeah.
And not only that, Parker. Oh, sorry.
Carry on, Gary.
What people need to understand, okay, when they read these reports that come out, do they just read the first sentence? Because, again, they like to stir shit on the internet because...
Well, it's AEW, so...
Yeah.
Sad but true. I only say that, man, because, again, like I told my followers, and a lot of people appreciate me for it, you need to understand, these lists of things are pre-approvals. They're not approved by... whatever Warner Brothers wants. It comes down to Tony at the end of the day. And what I mean, it's just, again, you know, people need to read the whole entire report. I'm not saying they're not, but that's what I want wrestling fans to do.
Yeah.
I don't think they're reading the reports. They just see the first sentence. And again, it gives another reason for
some people they look for any opportunity just to have a dig at AEW, and I almost didn't want to bring it up because I don't want to look like a hypocrite, because I wish stuff like that wasn't in the public domain anyway. But here I am on a wrestling podcast talking about it. But I was convinced that the three of us would be able to turn that into a positive, and we all have. And we didn't talk about that prior to coming on. I thought your opinions would be similar to mine on that, and I thought it was worth discussing. But we'll dive into Rampage. I'll just briefly touch on what happened on Rampage, and we'll have a bigger discussion on Collision. Opened up with a tag match. We had Naturally Limitless up against 2.0. Thought that was a pretty decent match. Keith Lee picking up the win with the Supernova. And that then led into a segment of QTV. And next week, we're going to be getting a triple threat. So the trios match, Johnny TV, QT and Solo against the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. Guys, what are your thoughts on QTV? Gary, I'll come to you first.
It is very interesting for sure. Which I'm going to do a shout out actually to QT Marshall.
I know what you're going to say.
Dude, he had a hell of a match against Penta.
The death match god, QT Marshall.
I love QT Marshall, man. Like, I mean, I get it, you know, he has his little fake hair, fake teeth, whatever. But QT Marshall, man, he's a fucking gem. Like, I actually have no issue with QTV at the moment. One thing that I really love, though, is looks like Hobbs is actually going to turn face. And I think that's what needs to be done. You know, he has so much potential in the world. Hobbs was very hot and popular in the indie scene in the West Coast here in the U.S., so, you know, that's great there. Harley Carmen, I mean, she's eye candy, so why not?
I think she's pretty entertaining as well, to be honest. I love it when she says, roll the footage in a Cockney accent. And she's definitely a good addition to the roster and that stable. My issue has always been I didn't think Hobbs necessarily needed them. But I think somebody like Johnny TV, John Morrison, Hennigan, Impact, Nitro, I think he's a much, much better fit for that stable. And there'll be some exciting little bits and pieces coming out. I don't think I necessarily want to see on Dynamite at the minute. But yeah, build it up on Rampage. And I think they're doing a decent job. What do you make of them, Parker? Is this a hit for you or a miss for you? Or what's your take on QTV?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you, David, and I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't, you know, stay congruent with my word. I thought the rap stuff was pretty hard to stomach. I'm not gonna lie, but I do see what they see in Harley. I will say that.
That's what
and
I'm saying.
I do think that they went into the entire Powerhouse Hobbs angle with good intentions. I mean, obviously we know the creative pull that QT Marshall has backstage, and I could see where he just wants to, give Hobbs a significant role in TV. They do view Hobbs very highly backstage. His win-loss may not indicate that, but still he is kind of perceived in the same light as a guy like Ricky Starks. And, to see him potentially be turning face here, I think is a great move and, direction for his career in AEW. QTV, I think it serves its purpose, and I think you're right. I think they got their gang of people right now. I think Johnny TV is perfect to kind of replace Hobbs in that entire dichotomy of how everything goes. QT Marshall, the deathmatch god. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on him. Triple Mania was nuts, by the way. If you're listening, watching this, Omega, Vikingo 2, QT Marshall, Penta. I mean, that was a great show. Go check out Triple Mania. But ultimately, I think Rampage, I think it should have its own acts, if you will. I mean, we had Malachi Black come out and say, if you want to watch House of Black, watch Collision. I think QTV is perfect for Rampage if we're going to talk about where it needs to be in kind of the pecking order. Discouraging to see Keith Lee kind of just in another meaningless tag match. I want to see these story beats with Swerve kind of trending in some type of direction. You have Hook versus Jack Perry being announced for the FTW title this upcoming Wednesday. You have Konosuke Takeshita absolutely beating the dog shit out of one of Kenny Omega's best friends. I like that story beat with Don Callis. You had Willow versus Athena in the semifinals for the women's Owen Hart tournament. I thought that was a pretty solid match. But honestly, and I just wanted to get this in real quick before we move on, I was big on this Toni Storm and Ty Valkyrie segment. I really liked it. Okay. I really liked the chemistry between the two. I thought Saraya, who normally just kind of feels like the prissy best friend, she kind of played her role well in this promo. I really like where Toni Storm is going as a character, honestly. I do, because it's felt like she's been slighted for so long. And I always kind of perceived her as like, the ace of the women's division, kind of the workhorse, kind of along the same lines of a guy like, I guess a guy like John Moxley, where, it's almost like his work or her work too was underappreciated. But it seems as if they're going to give her an actual meaningful run this time around. And it's good to see her kind of build up some credibility with each title defense. And I thought this was a really good promo by both women. But what were all of y'all's pretty much biggest takeaways from Rampage?
Well, I liked that Lance Archer's back, and obviously he picked the win up over Trent. And they set up a match with Orange Cassidy on Battle of the Belts for the international title. And I did really enjoy Athena's performance as well in the against Willow. I don't watch weekly Ring of Honor. I try to, but there's so much wrestling that we cover on the show. Simply not enough time. But I was hearing a lot of good things from Athena and not seeing it too much of her, obviously, on AEW. So I kind of see why all that credit, she gets all that credit. And I thought it was a killer match. Gary, what's your takeaways from Rampage before we move on?
So I do agree. I like the whole thing with Lance Archer. The thing that really stood out to me the most, more than anything, Parker said it best, Athena's, match that she had with Willow, I thought was perfect. The reason why I say that is because kudos to Athena, a veteran that's been in the ring for many years, giving Willow Nightingale the rub by letting Willow break her winning streak. Going 49-0 to the match, next thing you know, Willow breaks a streak. You're making a future star look strong into that. And this is why I love Tony. This is why I love TK when he books his future stars of tomorrow. People complain that TK always brings in the former WWE talent, but again, it's just the track record is so good, man. Every single time when you're seeing these, young talents, such as I always call Will sometimes like the Bailey of AEW.
Oh, it's such a good comparison.
But look how
he's so marketable, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that match really stood out to me. Definitely one of my favorite moments of the night. Takeaways, should I say.
Well, we weren't sure moving forward on Hitting the Turnbuckle whether we were going to cover Rampage because we thought it might be relegated to kind of more developmental. But given how good it's been the last few weeks, we've simply got to talk about it when we're talking about Collision. And the only other real noteworthy thing that came out of it, next week it's going to be Royal Rampage, because obviously they've got the double ring. So that comes back for a second year. Before we talk about Collision, Battle of the Belts followed Collision. I felt it was pretty inconsequential, so I'm just going to go through the results and then let you guys have your say, and then we'll have a good discussion about Collision from start to finish. So Orange Cassidy beat Lance Archer. It was via count out. That obviously protects Lance to a degree. Thought that maybe was an opportunity to switch the title, but there's obviously some mileage left in Orange yet. Toni Storm, Parker, you discussed Toni Storm and Taya. They had their match. Unfortunately, our feed cut out here. I don't know if that was across the board, but we didn't see the finish to that. But Toni did pick up the win. And in the main event, Luchasaurus beat Shawn Spears. They didn't have long. Shawn Spears got a pretty good reaction from the Canadian crowd. But yeah, those were your three matches on a Battle of the Belts. Parker, I'll come to you first. What was your takeaway? Do you like Battle of the Belts? Do you think it's something that they'll persist with and keep doing? Do you think they need to change it a little bit? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, when I think of the word battle, I think of, just the heat of war and, potential danger on both sides. But it seems like the belts are safest at Battle of the Belts. I mean, we've had no title changes. Unless I'm forgetting one, really throughout the duration of most of these, shows. And I hate to make this comparison, but it almost feels like Saudi shows in a way from WWE, where it's almost feels like it's not even canon and nothing really big happens at these shows.
Yeah,
I understand they serve their purpose. Like Tony Khan, for example, when I called AEW in Greensboro not too long ago, he talked about how he wants to kind of, instill, the kind of these traditional shows. And I can understand where, he wants to build like a legacy with Battle of the Belts. And I think we get some good quality wrestling, but no major story beats really happen at these shows in totality. I think you did a really good job of circumnavigating all that stuff. I told you probably my biggest takeaway from Battle of the Belts was probably the Acclaim coming out, obviously getting in with the Calgary crowd.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting how, they cut their rap, they get in the ring. Billy Gunn, of course, reliving the glory days. Can't blame him. I mean, I think there's a legitimate argument to be made that the title should have never been taken off the Acclaimed. I mean, honestly, truly, just because of how over they are. One of the best homegrown acts from AEW. I don't even think it's a conversation. And, to have them kind of come out and be like, oh, we're getting our rematch for the AEW Trios titles. I was like, you guys were never Trios champions at any point. And it almost feels like these guys are being put away in a stocking or something and kind of being kept away from a lot of these major storylines, where I almost feel like they should kind of get exposure on a weekly basis and not just on Rampage. I mean, on Dynamite. I mean, these guys are over. The fans love them. And yes. I mean, this is after the belts have been taken off of them. You could honestly say maybe the shine has kind of been taken off them in general. But at the end of the day, I mean, these guys are still hot and the people still love them. So the more acclaimed on my TV, the better. I am glad to see them getting that tag match, that trios match in general. But, Anthony Bowens is such a good hype man. I mean, I could sit here and gush about those guys all day long. I thought the Orange Cassidy, Lance Archer stuff, I'll kind of go through the rest of it here real quick. I thought the Orange Cassidy and Lance Archer stuff was really good. I liked having Jake outside the ring. I thought that stuff was pretty entertaining. Yeah. The finish kind of alluded to the Battle Royale that we got from Orange not too long ago. I like that a lot. And, it definitely unfinished business between Lance Archer and Orange Cassidy. That's definitely for sure. Shawn Spears, like you said, getting the superstar treatment. And, I thought he looked great. I thought he's always been kind of underutilized in AEW, but it was kind of good to see him, kind of get some love here from the fans. Of course, Christian Cage is the unofficial TNT champion. At least that's the way they're treating it right now. So yeah. I thought that was good stuff as well. Kind of overbooked in a way, but at the same time, like in a good way. I mean, everything Christian touches in AEW, guys, I don't know about you, but I think it's absolutely gold. You had them get the trophies for the Owen Hart, but I mean, I think we haven't gotten through Collision yet, so we'll save that for the Collision review. Toni Storm retains. Like you said, in closure, I thought that Rampage was really inconsequential viewing at one point, but it's almost like with the inception of Collision, it's almost like they've had to up the ante on Rampage a little bit and kind of make it a part of, the flow of AEW television. I mean, you had the Young Bucks, the Hung Bucks versus the Dark Order not too long ago, getting a huge, rub from Meltzer. So I don't know. I think Rampage is back, baby. I think Rampage is back.
Cool. So on to Collision now, lads. The show was from Calgary, Alberta, and Ian Riccoboni was on with Nigel McGuinness. Kevin Kelly is doing the G1 tournament for New Japan. But I thought Ian Riccaboni did a great job. We kick off with one of the best tag team matches I've watched. Certainly one of the best 2 out of 3 falls matches that I've watched in FTR against the Bullet Club Gold. Gary, I'll go to you first. What did you think of this match? How it played out? Did the right team win? What's your opinion, bud?
They're what are they now? The 10-star FTR. It's just, man, I don't think 10 stars is enough. I think it needs to get 20. This match, I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to top last week. But when you're seeing these 4 men, just really give us something to cheer about, get you highly excited for. Me and Dave was actually mentioning this off air there, Parker. So Dave think this should have actually been the main event, but I'm looking at it this way. Collision is only 2 hours. So if they would have rushed probably the tournaments and stuff like that, with CM Punk and, Starks and Willow Nightingale and, Ruby. And then, of course, Taya's match. I'm sorry. I think that was during Battle of the Belts. But anyway, it's just one thing that I really loved. It's just, this is what I love about AEW fans. And, that they're so passionate, they're loud, they're very vocal. The crowd was invested with this for every single second of that match. I mean, I've never seen, honestly, I'm not just saying this because I'm an AEW mark, but I have never seen mid-match where they're just taking 2 minutes to decompress and then the crowd just goes absolutely nuts with a standing ovation. Yeah. Those 4 men really deserve that moment. I loved it because it was in Owen's hometown. So it was a good feeling for FTR, I'm sure. I don't think it would have bothered me if there would have ever been a title change as well. Like Juice Robinson, man, I don't know about anybody else. But Juice Robinson's really stepping up his game. This is what I love about
impressed by him.
Yeah, man, he killed it. And we know Jay White can kill it as well. One thing that I loved about the outcome of the match is they really saved Jay White by
they really protected him.
Yeah, by looking strong, by not taking.
Well, they just couldn't kill him, could they? They just could not get his shoulders into the mat for 3 seconds. I mean, the first fall was when Jay hit the switchblade. Switchblade hit the Blade Runner on Cash Wheeler, and then the second fall was the Shatter Machine stroke Big Rig to tie it at 1-1. So we went into that important third fall. Parker, what did you think of this match as it progressed? Was it the masterpiece that myself and Gary think it is, in your opinion?
I mean, look, are we really surprised? Honestly, this is the best show. This is the best wrestling show on cable right now. And I don't even think it's a debate anymore. And you could argue it's because it's being spearheaded by people who just have, as some would call it, a love for the game. Guys like Phil Brooks, guys like Dax Harwood. And, people could say Dax can get rid of his mic and shut the hell up every once in a while, stop politicking backstage, whatever. These guys love professional wrestling, and they clearly have a vision for it. They know how they want it to sound. They know how they want it to look. And lo and behold, we have a 58-minute classic without any of these banned moves in it. I mean, they had these people absolutely wrapped around their finger. This was a A+ match on the A show for professional wrestling. And I put a lot of emphasis on professional wrestling here because this was professional wrestling. I mean, the crowd was absolutely wrapped around their fingers. These guys told a story. You had the 2 grizzled veterans. You had the 2, no pun intended, young bucks just absolutely going at it, just toe-to-toe with 10-star, 20-star FTR at this damn point. This is the last stop in Calgary. Obviously, they're going to pay homage to Mr. Owen Hart. Brett, we got an absolute 58-minute classic here. On the anniversary of their takeover match, which was also another classic. And I don't know which one of you guys just said it, but man, does Jay White like a fucking rock star or what? I mean, seriously, this is a guy that a month ago, the conversations we were having were, oh, he shouldn't have went to AEW. You know, they wanted him in Judgment Day on Monday Night Raw, for God's sake. Well, let's be real here. Us three know who Jay White is. We knew how cataclysmic of a signing this was when it happened. Now you make him the guy on your new show, you know, and he is being treated as such because you remember me saying this, David, and I don't mean to go on a rant here, but you remember me saying last week that, you know, it felt like the entire point of that match was to make Jay White look like a mega heel, someone that you cannot put away, a main event level threat. And, you know, halfway through this match, you know, honestly, I was sitting there thinking, you got MJF and Adam Cole on the horizon in the Eliminator Tag Tournament. I almost think you make an audible and put the titles on Jay White and Juice Robinson in this situation. I really was thinking that in the heat of the moment because at some point you do want the trio of CMFTR to come to fruition. I thought Jay White and Juice would have been great transitional champions. It would have been awesome to see how that all would have tied in with the Eliminator Tournament, but I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent about that. But also, Rock Hard Juice Robinson, great shout out there by Mr. Honor the Elite, because I got to say, I was telling you this before the show, David. Juice is clocked in at around 2 hours and 47 minutes in ring on Collision so far. So this guy is the MVP, the workhorse of Collision so far. Just wanted to point that out. But as far as like highlights from the actual in-ring product, I thought that Bullet Club Gold's counters to the Shatter Machine are just so creative and well thought out. And those sequences are just so awesome to see in real time. Obviously, you had a lot of sharpshooters, a lot of calls to the Hart family, understandably so. You had the double splash spot. You guys already talked about the standing ovation. I love just the touch of the finish with Dax taking his knee pad off because it almost looked as if, all right, this is my opening for Bullet Club Gold, and you thought they were going to kind of chime in on it. But it turns out it was a Uno reverse, and Dax was really just trying to be able to get full range of motion when he went in for the submission for the win. You know, and one more thing, we did talk about in the last episode as well that, you know, oh, are they blowing their load too soon on this? Is this something they just want to give out on free TV? You know, people said the same thing about FTR Bucks 2, but that was one of the best damn TV tag matches we've seen in recent memory. And sometimes you need good professional wrestling on your professional wrestling show. So mic drop to that crowd. I loved it. I want more of it. Give me more Collision in the show, baby.
Absolutely. And as you said, the finish, they both lock in the sharpshooter on Bullet Club Gold, and that appeared to be the finish, and it wasn't. And then, Dax...
That was a callback, too.
Yeah. The cogs are working. Dax is like, that should have done it. What can I do to get the edge? He drops the knee pad, which allowed him to drop down deeper for the sharpshooter, and Juice Robinson tapped, and FTR retained.
Great call and commentary. What's his name again?
Nigel McGuinness, man.
He signed a multi-year deal, apparently. It's official as of this afternoon.
Yes, cool. Nigel. No, Io Riccoboni.
In Riccoboni.
Oh, excuse me.
Cool.
Yes, Riccoboni. Which, really quick, I'm such a nerd for AEW, as you know, David. So AEW has broken a pair of records this week, which I'm going to say one of them, since we're on that discussion with Collision. This is the longest tag match live on a weekly episodic wrestling show in the history of wrestling.
Wow.
And even on Wednesday, AEW also created another one in the history books with Nick Wayne being the youngest wrestler ever to be on a main event for a wrestling show.
It was like 18 in 2 days.
Originally, what's that?
18 in 2 days, I believe.
He just turned 18 before he wrestled.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
On Monday, I think. Yeah.
So the record was currently with Soraya Paige at the time when she was 19. But yeah, so there you go. There's a fun fact for everybody with this tag match from Collision.
And they absolutely set the bar to say it was the longest tag match as well. It's going to take some going to beat it. And one last point on Jay White. I love the spot where he teased the switch in music.
Oh, yes.
He started getting the boos.
Yes.
And then he applied the sharpshooter. I thought that was top level.
Charisma embodied.
So good.
Jay White is a superstar, man. This did nothing but help him ultimately.
Guys, we
And
could talk all night about that match, but we really need to talk about the tournament. Such a great tribute to Owen Hart. I loved Martha being there again this time and giving out the trophies and being part of it. I just think that's so nice. As a lifelong wrestling fan, as somebody that was watching wrestling at the time when Owen unfortunately passed and everything that's happened since, I think it's so nice for that family to be able to have somewhere to pay tribute to their husband, their father in terms of the kids, wrestling fans have wanted something like this for so long, and I think AEW have done such a great job with it. Gary, what did you think of the women's final against Ruby Soho against Willow? Ruby obviously in her second final, coming up short again for the second year running, but I thought this was a pretty good match.
I thought the match was really exciting. Do I agree with the winner? It's debatable. I think Ruby should have won. But again, like I was discussing about the whole thing with Athena, by winning, by letting the future star of tomorrow Willow win. I was actually very surprised with the win, not gonna lie. Because I'm a part of predictions group, so I had, Ruby winning, it was the writing on the wall for me. But again, it really, really was awesome. Just because it felt like a very unexpected win, especially the red hot social outcast, how they're going. So the ending was a little interesting. I don't know if you should have ended it that way, but either way,
I thought it was a bit overbooked. I think it was a little bit unnecessary.
Agreed. But it wasn't too bad for what it was worth. So
yeah, Parker, what did you make of the match? What did you make of the finish? And was it the right winner, or would you have gone Ruby?
Going into this, if I were in a predictions pool, I would have put all my money on Ruby, because obviously you had the character change. She was in the same position last year, came out, on the short end of the stick being a good guy. So you didn't really expect that to be, the case with her being a bad guy. But to me, that kind of plants the seed of like, I did it the good guy way. I did it the bad guy way. Heel, face, none of it's working out for me. So I can honestly see a future disbandment from the Outcast, even though she does fit that group oh so well. Willow Nightingale, obviously, one of the top faces of the AEW women's division. She's extremely marketable, $1 million smile, great stiff in-ring work. I thought the finish was clunky. We talked about that before we came on, David. I said that the execution with the spray paint, with the turnbuckle stuff, I mean, I don't know where along the line communication went astray, but you can definitely tell that the fluidity of that was kind of, messed up. But I ultimately, tried and true, I think the match served its purpose. And, it was kind of to establish Willow Nightingale as one of the future faces of the AEW women's division. I mean, she's done absolutely fantastic work. She just defeated Mercedes Moné not too long ago. She's been an MVP on AEW television in regards to work rate. So I think this was well-deserved. I definitely probably would have went Ruby Soho in this instance, simply just because of, I feel like she kind of paid her dues last year. I definitely agree, with Mr. Honor the Elite here. I definitely am in the same camp if Ruby should have came out on top here. But you certainly can't blame them with going with Willow. But, as far as like in-ring wise, I mean, I thought it was a pretty solid match. I think they had, kind of a limited amount of time to make it work. But, they came out with a pretty decent final product, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was exactly the same as you guys. I expected Ruby to pick up the win. The only thing I did think afterwards is maybe a face winning is a little bit easier given the fact it's Owen Hart and how the tournament is. It's a feel-good thing. So to have an Outcast winning with some of their antics in previous weeks that was my only thought on it. But yeah, great match. And before we had the main event for the men's tournament, the Kings of the Black Throne, so that is 2/3 of the House of Black, they basically had a squash match with two local talents. I normally catch the names. I didn't this week. But I think the most interesting thing in this was the storyline development with Andrade. Andrade came out at the end. Referees got in the way of separating. I think we are working towards an Andrade versus Malachi match, whether that be at All In or All Out. I'm all for it. Wherever they put it, I absolutely want to see it. It was a shame that we haven't had a little bit more of Andrade and Miro. But obviously, when we run a 2 out of 3 falls match, it's going an hour. It does limit the amount of performers that are going to get on the show. So hopefully we'll see those guys return to action next week. Main event time. Parker, CM Punk, Ricky Starks. Did this go how you expected? Did you enjoy the match? What did you think of the crowd's reaction to CM Punk? It was very mixed.
We talked talked about, when they were in Regina, that Punk kind of opened the show out, came out and, kind of cut a babyface promo on Owen. And, I kind of had the idea that he was going to be able to sway most crowds just due to his charisma and just, the ability CM Punk has me as a microphone in his hand. But I think the crowd, honestly, was the most interesting part of this entire match. And I almost like the entire match in and of itself was a reaction to kind of what was happening in the crowd. And I obviously the plan was always going to be for Ricky to go over here just because Punk's not going to, proclaim himself the victor of the Owen Hart tournament after parading around in pink after Brawl Out. I just, you would have thought that would have been the direction they were going to go in. But the more time passed by, the more the more video packages they put out about Ricky Starks, I was like, okay, especially after Willow won, I was like, all right, the young kids are winning this. And it's fine. It's cool. I just hope they do Ricky Starks justice and how they get there. And, I almost thought it was kind of a bad idea to throw in that the House of Black segment because I felt like it was going to cut from the main event. But they did, of course, reiterate to the audience, hey, that match is going to have just about as much time as it needs. So I knew we were going to get a good match here, and I really like the dynamic. You have the grizzled veteran Punk taking on the young dynamo babyface Ricky Starks, who's just, lightning out of a bottle. I think this was a pretty solid match overall. It was kind of unclear what the dynamic between these two would be since they had been seen on TV together in weeks prior. You had Ricky come out in the prepackage and say, in that ring, you are my equal. And I guess that's where I kind of go into what I don't like here. And that is how it ended. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was an exciting sequence, right? The leverage pins and all that stuff. And, I thought both these men sold their asses off. And overall, I thought it was a solid match. The crowd firmly against Punk. Everybody wanted Ricky to win here. It doesn't matter if Punk comes out there in pink or not. But Ricky pretty much ends up winning on a roll-up. But he gets his hand on the rope at pretty much 2.75 and pretty much steals a victory over CM Punk in this instance. There were some good spots throughout. I really like how Ricky Starks went for the elbow drop and Punk kind of did the setup thing that he did with Darby Allin. I thought that was a really nice callback. It almost felt like he was alluding to Joe in a sense as well, but I was really big on that. I thought the right person won here. I just didn't exactly agree with, how they got there. And then post-match, you have Ricky Starks who's proclaiming he's a babyface, pretty much run out of the ring, jack the trophy out of Justin's hands, and run to the back. So I really am curious to see what the sense of direction here is with the narrative. I think that was my biggest takeaway coming out of this match. But congratulations to Ricky Starks on winning the Owen Hart final.
Yeah, I absolutely thought we might see Samoa Joe or something else dictate the end of this match rather than Ricky. He didn't turn heel. That's too strong to say. But yeah, the way he took the trophy off just in Thunder Liger, that seemed a little bit strange. Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
That's it. One. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where they go with it because Ricky Starks is such a popular guy. Gary, what did you make of the match, the finish, and the future for Ricky Starks?
So the match for me was pretty solid. Parker mentioned the elbow drop and everything. Pam, homage. To stuff with the Owen and such, like with the mixed reactions to Punk, it's obviously what fans want. Since his return, we want him to be heel. I'm gonna say this, Parker, with the reactions of, with being disgruntled, how Ricky won. I think this is perfect. And obviously, man, I love that you're feeling disgruntled, weird as that sounds. Because if this is what they're going to do with Ricky Starks to continue something, like the reason why I say that is because when Ricky Starks grabbing the trophy, as we mentioned, then he just storms off. It really leads to a cliffhanger. What's going to happen here? What the hell did Ricky just do?
Yeah.
I get it. Ricky's very hot, one of the hottest baby faces in the company. Is it the right decision for him to perhaps turn heel? I don't know. But if he does go that route, I think it's no brainer that he's going to join Bullet Club Gold. So that's what I think they're going to do.
Interesting, yeah.
Those promos. And I got to say this too. That was more so my raw reaction after I really kind of slept on it and really thought about it in the big picture. I thought about everything leading up to this point, right? And one of those things being CM Punk talking about whoever pins me, once you can beat me, you can be the guy. And, this was Punk's first loss since being back on AEW television. And I do think this is more of an indication of Ricky Starks has arrived to the main event scene than anything else, than it is an indictment on anything else. Because, I mean, realistically, like, Punk sold his ass off for the kid. He really did. I mean, he took a Rochambeau spot, rolled out of the ring. He sold everything Ricky was hitting him with. And I don't think we need to forget here that Jay White and Punk are in the midst of a program for whatever is in that red bag. I know it hasn't been confirmed yet, but that seems to be the direction that they are trending in. And I think this was more so a way of Ricky kind of putting himself in the mix. I can almost visualize Punk coming out next week and saying, you beat me, but did you really beat me, kid? You have the pressure from Jay White. You have the pressure from good guy CM Punk. And when that inevitable turn does happen, which I think you're calling it and I think you're dead on, it is going to be big. And talk about a good fit for Bullet Club Gold. I mean, just the charisma Ricky Starks exudes. And, I don't know, like, I think that would be very good for Ricky Starks' career. You're right. Maybe short term, I didn't get, the instant gratification that I would want from, weekly television. But I think in regards to like the overall overarching narrative, I think this was a move in the right direction.
And see, man,
Carry on, Gary.
Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off there, man.
That's one.
So I look at it this way too. Like, one thing that I'm really loving about Collision, it's just the key elements are feeling important. The show, it feels more than just, here's a wrestling show on Saturday, and people are going to look at fucking ratings and be like, well, this show is just going to be like Rampage. Are you sure? Are you sure? Did you see that 58-minute match? But I digress. But one thing that I've noticed I even have a little uncertainty with, Punk and Dax Harwood being in that creative role for Collision. But man, like, this is what I love about CM Punk, like it or not. He always helps future talent look good. He made Ricky win, and kudos to Punk for that. So I just think on a viewer standpoint of when you can really balance the apples and oranges between the two headlined shows for AEW on a consistent weekly basis, it's so awesome. So, But I'm very curious to see what's going to happen on Collision next weekend. And again, the storytelling with Collision has been so good. Really quick with the Andrade thing with Malachi Black. Dave, you said it right on the button, man. I think we're going to see that all in more than all out, personally. Just because, two Europeans going at it. No, not European, sorry. The European is Malachi, but we're that. But international stars, there we go. That's what I meant to say. But man, just Collision, it's my go-to show right now, more than Dynamite.
And you know what? I don't care who's listening to this. I don't care who's watching it. If it isn't the best wrestling show you've watched the last 3 or 4 weeks, I'm almost convinced you don't really like professional wrestling. I mean, really, like, I do feel like a lot of people that are criticizing Collision probably wouldn't even sit there and watch the entire tag match. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but I will say this in closure, and I kind of want to hop on the little sentiment there before we go to you, David, about Malachi and Andrade. We saw what these guys can do under the bright lights. We saw what they did TakeOver years ago, and it was absolutely incredible. I'm going to say this outright because I'm a big Malachi Black fan. Anybody knows that. With that being said, stop letting this guy do heel hooks. Stop letting this guy be the hot tag. Let Malachi Black show that just ferocity of in-ring style that he used to do all the time. I understand this guy is a heel, but some of the sequences that he did, babyface or not, I don't care if it's all in or it's all out. I don't care where it is. Let these two kill each other. And let Malachi Black show you what he did in NXT. I mean, really, you guys remember some of the sequences, the striking. I mean, just the Black Mass felt like pretty much one of the most badass wrestling moves in, wrestling history at one point. Like, it felt like it was going to be a big deal. And with all that being said, like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but on commentary last night, that was the first time on AEW television that they actually called that kick the Black Mass. Just want to throw that out there as well. So, I say let these two guys return to form, but I honestly feel like we still have yet to see the best of Malachi Black and AEW, and whether it be it all in or all out, let these two guys cook and don't hold anything back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about Malachi. And the great thing that you've got is they can put him in a singles match on All In, and he could be a trios match at All Out. so you could utilize him for both. People are saying what they're going to do the week after. The roster there is so dense. They got so many great stars. Putting on 2 fantastic premium live events, pay-per-views, that's not going to be a problem for Tony Khan, is it, Gary?
I'll say that again. I didn't get that for some reason.
Putting on 2 live events back-to-back with a week in between, that's not going to be a problem for Tony Khan, is it, with the amount of talent that he's got on his roster?
To tell you the truth, I look at it this way, too. I mean, sure, 2 major shows in, literally a week. Is that overreaching? Maybe, maybe not. I think All In is going to be, a lot of the, big names that you really, really want to see. And then you're going to see All Out to get some of the names that really missed All In. So that's what I think. Yeah. And again, I look at it realistically as a fan. I want that talent to really be happy in this company. I want the likes of Malachi Black, the likes of, crossing my fingers with Kenny Omega, to get those names re-signed, So I think that's what the purpose of it being back-to-back. And, I look at it this way too. I'm sure Dave and Parker, you guys saw the bundle tickets for All Out. It's pretty much sold out. So that's all that needs to be said, and it just shows that wrestling fans are still going to invest their time. I get it. That's tickets to attend the show. Are people actually going to buy All Out? I mean, I want to see why I wouldn't. So yeah. Again, I'm just an AEW mark.
We all are, man. Parker, any closing thoughts from you before we wrap up this week?
I'm wearing red, baby. We're talking about the Ace show, Collision. I mean, look, it continues each and every week to be the best show for professional wrestling across all platforms. I know Impact had a great week. I really do. But really, honestly, everything with FTR and Bullet Club Gold supersedes anything I saw on TV this week. And I say that because you're grooming your next big megastar in Jay White. You have one of the best tag matches in recent memory. You gave these guys an hour. You had the crowd absolutely wrapped around your hand. You put over 2 stars in the final hour. I mean, just a fun, quick 2 hours of TV. I mean, you heard our Dynamite review, guys. I mean, Dynamite has been on the downward spiral. I'm not trying to just crap on Dynamite just because of the inception of Collision, but ultimately, these just feel like 2 different shows right now. And I think we're going to get some fun stuff at Blood and Guts, but there is definitely some stark differences between what we're seeing on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And hell, I'm glad that Fridays are feeling like they mean a lot more than they used to. So as far as the cohesiveness of AEW's product, we had a lot of talk about, this is going to split the locker room. This is basically a hard brand split. This is going to split the fans. What the hell ever? Competition brings out the best in everybody. And if it makes you worse, then I don't think you want it bad enough. Because at the end of the day, you were going to sink or you were going to swim. Last night, Bullet Club Gold swam, Ricky Starks swam, Collision swam. You could talk about these ratings all you want, and you can stick it where the sun don't shine. Because as a professional wrestling fan, I get my itch scratched on Saturday nights now. And the most it has to compete with is a damn rerun of Return of the Sith, okay? If you don't enjoy AEW, you're going into it with the idea that you don't want to enjoy it. But as a professional wrestling fan, you're getting everything you could ask for and then some. I don't need Days of Our Lives on Friday night every single week. I get nothing out of it. I'm sorry I'm not excited to watch a tag team guy get pinned by Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. My bad. Watch Paul Heyman get kicked in the head for the 100th time. Watch a Fatal 4-Way so we can watch Austin Theory. I love professional wrestling, and last night was professional wrestling. And, I'll leave it at that.
And you know what I just thought of too?
Go on, Gary.
This guy brings the excitement in the room. Good job, David. And Adam and
Andy.
Wait a minute. I was going to say, he just added me on Facebook today for bringing this guy on board because...
Parker set up the show. He was away for a little time, but he set the show up with Andy, and we couldn't be more happy to have him back. He's such a passion, as you can see. I love talking to both of you guys about AEW. It's the highlight.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I was a little bit alone on this at the beginning. It got to a point where, it felt like every week it was like an AEW versus WWE kind of thing. I love the healthy tribalism. But at the same time, I love giving an honest, positive, subjective analysis of all products. And with that being said, I love talking to you gentlemen as well. It was really nice to meet you, Gary. I obviously just followed the Facebook page. I really look forward to doing these shows moving forward because I got a feeling, guys, this is not the last good episode of Collision we're going to see. So they're on a little bit of a tear, might I say.
And you know what I just thought of too, guys? Like the whole thing, okay. Now, see, I don't mean to take one company compared to, Collision, but you have a 45, in-ring segment with the Bloodline, which I get it. It's perhaps one of the hottest storylines that people enjoy. And then what happened with SmackDown after that? Why did we just see AJ Styles?
That was my whole concern. That was literally all I said was like, all right, they already blew their load. So now we're going to have 3 weeks of nothing on television.
And that's what I'm saying. Like everything just was really, 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 really rushed. And then you get a 58 fucking match in AEW last night. And every match that carried on after that flowed to perfection. This is what I love about TK.
And if you put over the Days of Our Lives on Friday night, but not the tag match, do you really like professional wrestling? I'm just asking a question because I don't know about you. How many damn times do we need to see Roman Reigns return in one calendar year? He's got more returns than title defenses at this point. You'll crap on MJF and AEW, but Roman Reigns can do the same exact thing. He's sitting over here beating up his cousins for 7 months and not defending his title. But hey, that's cinema. That's cinema.
Dude, Orange Cassidy is about to pass Roman Reigns for the most title defenses.
I love Orange Cassidy because he's the antithesis of everything the WWE fans hate. I love it. Yes, I love it. And Burroughs, that's a shot at you because you were burying that dude. You were burying that dude on our last episode. And Orange Cassidy is easily, you could argue, one of the best champions in professional wrestling today. And you can stamp it, bookmark it, whatever.
Whatever, for real, whatever.
Guys, we've got to call it time there. That has been a lot of fun talking to you guys today, and I hope you all enjoyed watching and listening to us. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, with a Slammiversary review. I'm off to watch that now. I've watched half of it. Pretty good show. So we might be coming at you with that, but we've got all our normal shows this week. We've got our Raw review, SmackDown, Dynamite, Impact. So thanks for checking us out again, guys. Been great talking to you. I'm going to sign off with my Kenny Omega sign off. We must bid you adieu. Goodbye.
Mwah.
Good night.
Thumb up like Cassidy.
Bang.